Irreverent, entertaining, cool. You're listening to LA Talk Radio.
You're listening to What Women Want with Judy Goss, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in once again to What Women Want Talk Radio. I am broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia this evening, home of our Spirit of Women conference in just a few weeks. And I'm also with co-host Kristin West, who is covering our studio in LA. And we are going to have fun tonight. Celeb Power Hour is our show, and we're going to cover two celebrities from two very different industries. Melissa Carter, the famed radio show personality from Atlanta, whose decades-long career has just ended, her choice, and she's giving us the exclusive story on why she left the industry. It may surprise you. And actor and social media influencer Bill Oberst Jr., who you may have seen many, many times on Criminal Minds, or perhaps in a YouTube horror video, Take That Lollipop, that was viewed only about 1 million times or more. And we're going to find out his fascinating dichotomy of horror film acting and religious beliefs and more. What an exciting show. We'll be bringing them both on in just a few minutes. And in the meantime, I want to thank you, our listeners out there. We've been on the show for over 3 years. We've hit over 850,000 downloads and counting. If you haven't subscribed to us, please do so on iTunes or visit our archives on LA Talk Radio's website, latalkradio.com. As always, I just want to take a moment and say our prayers and thoughts are with the recent hurricane victims in the South, all over. It's just unbelievable, including right here in Atlanta. And I've been through 2 major ones myself. I know how awful it is. So I just want to throw that out there, that we are thinking about all of you. Okay, a little bit about my background. Besides being the host of this awesome radio show, I am also a TV lifestyle expert, a regular contributor on NBC and Fox. I'm actually back on Atlanta & Company next week on 11 Alive, plugging my Spirit of Women conference, which you're going to hear all about tonight. I can't stop talking about it. And that's happening in just a few weeks. I'm so excited. I hope you'll join us. I founded the company What Women Want Networking 6 years ago. And that's who's hosting Spirit of Women Conference. What Women Want Networking, like the show, What Women Want Talk Radio. We have several chapters spanning from coast to coast, and I'm also a St. Martin's Press author and freelance writer for New York Lifestyles magazine. I'm also the mom of twin girls who are now 13 years old. All right, let's talk about the Spirit of Women Conference. Our first guest, Melissa Carter, is keynoting it, and I'm thrilled to say we are right in the middle of a 48-hour sale where we slashed the ticket prices down from $350 to $199 for Florida and Georgia residents. This only lasts till tomorrow night at midnight. So if you're listening, go to spiritofwomenconference.com, grab that ticket. The discount code is Keep Going Discount. And also on top of that, 10% goes to Habitat for Humanity. Okay, we are a community of women that are getting things done. Imagine meeting women like Melissa Carter, along with 300 other women who are wanting to support each other and learn about maximizing our potential in every way, professionally and personally. Over $4,000 in value of education and coaching. So go get your ticket now. We only actually have 12 VIP tickets left, so very exciting. Kristin, we can finally take that red carpet picture together at the Spirit of Women Conference. What do you think?
I'm so excited. I can't wait. I've booked my trip. I've booked my room. I'm just thrilled to be coming to this event and meeting you and Melissa and all of the other wonderful speakers that are going to be there.
And you know what? We are so thrilled to have you. It's just, it's like my dream has come true finally, for bringing all kinds of high quality women together in one place at the Westin Hotel. It's a Westin Peachtree Plaza in downtown Atlanta. And it's just so exciting. And you know what? I'm going to read your intro because I just am so proud of you. An award-winning actress, screenwriter, and producer. Wow. Your film Seeking Valentina was nominated for 2 awards at the Hollywood Dreams Film Festival just a couple of weeks ago in Las Vegas. The script Likeness that you co-wrote was also nominated for a screenwriting award at this year's Fantastic Horror Film Festival. And you're going to also be in the upcoming films The Spirit Room, Hell's Kitty, and The Lich, all due out later this year. Busy, busy. Kristin, I'm kind of freaking out. because I'm about to introduce someone who's an icon in the radio industry. And I don't really think about sometimes what I'm saying on the show, but this time I'm not so sure.
Well, it's always a privilege to meet people that you admire. I know I feel that way about Bill, who's also coming on the show tonight. And to have Bill and Melissa here together makes for a very special and wonderful evening.
Yeah, they've both had such interesting and just legendary careers, and they're still going. And it's amazing after all these years in the business. So we're going to find out some of the backstory and exclusives and all kinds of fun stuff going on. Let's bring on Melissa first. Melissa Carter has been a popular radio personality in Atlanta for over 20 years. She's also a TV personality, newspaper columnist, a children's book author, and women's activist. Welcome to the show, Melissa.
Oh, I mean, I'm going to have the two of you with me everywhere I go because, I mean, just that intro itself, I mean, I am impressed to hear myself, even though I'm the one talking, because you've inflated my ego so much.
Oh, my gosh, please.
Such an honor to be on the show.
It. Well, it's such an honor to have you.
I mean, I just think that this is such an important program, so I am honored to be here.
Well, thank you. And thank you for keynoting at our upcoming Spirit of Women conference. I am excited to meet you. I hear from Jane Madigan that you have a lot to talk about and some very important things. And we're going to, she goes on and on about you. You know, Jane, she says the nicest things about everyone. I can tell you're a favorite.
It's a shame that my conversations with broadcast across the country because there's probably a lot more scoop that sits in those conversations than actually gets out on air. But, we'll slowly but surely we'll get all that out.
That's right. And we're going to hear a preview on September 20th where you'll be on a panel moderated by me. It's like a Spirit of Women conference sneak peek. So if anyone is in the Atlanta area and wants to meet Melissa in person before the conference, come join us. There's more information on how to register for that at whatwomenwantnetworking.com. That's in Buckhead, Atlanta area. So we're going to get the exclusive on Melissa in a minute, because I know our listeners are dying to hear the backstory of why you quit the industry. But I'm going to make them wait because I want to know how you got into radio in the first place. Did you always want to go into it, or was there something else you kind of started with then segued over in that area?
Well, what's funny is I think that I have to give my brother credit because in 1970-something, he bought one of those recordable cassette tape, players. Now, for the younger, listeners, there was a thing called a cassette tape, and you could record your voice on it.
Wow.
And so my brother bought one of those, and I grew up in Nashville, and I pretended to be a Nashville DJ when I was in elementary school. Now, I went on to college. I went to the University of Tennessee, go Vols, and I went there for television news. And then when I came to Atlanta, I worked at CNN as a secretary. So I got my first job at CNN, but I was, an assistant. And then I just happened, one of those weird circumstances in the entertainment industry where you happen to meet somebody at just the right time that happened to need somebody for a morning show. And I was the news writer for a morning show here in Atlanta for a station called 99X. And it was a legendary station. And fortunately, I got to cut my teeth with some of the best DJs that have ever been on the air. And I just went from there. So it started out when I was a kid, but I didn't pay enough attention to that. Do I? So, yeah, amazing. So it's one of those things where, you talk about your daughters, like I have a 2-year-old son. And I think about, the things that you're naturally interested in as a child usually tend to be the things that you kind of are passionate about when you're an adult, if you pay enough attention to it.
That's for sure. And, I've read all about your son and your life and, the fact that you were the first openly gay radio personality in Atlanta, if not the country. Now, did you announce that on air?
I did. On that 99X station that I mentioned, I had already come out to my family in private. So just to my sister, brother, and parents. The anniversary of Ellen coming, I think, I came out like 10 years before she did. But it was in 1995 that I came out on the air. And it was something at the time that nobody really, were exposed to. the country because for a while I was on a syndicated show that was that had gay and lesbian hosts, and they were in search for a lesbian and couldn't find a lesbian in radio, and then came across me. And, and I'm talking about in New York and LA, in Chicago, places that people naturally go to when they think of big metropolitan cities. And they had to come down to Georgia to find an openly, gay woman on the radio. So I just think that, kind of what you're talking about in women, I just think that you have to understand that if you don't listen to the naysayers, that you actually, and I think that had I told people, hey, I'm from a small town in Tennessee, and I'm going to go to Atlanta, and someday I want to be on the radio, and someday I want people to know me and be a celebrity, and I'm going to be out and proud. And, there would have been plenty of people to tell me that was the most ridiculous thing, that, of course, in the, middle of the South, there's no way that anybody's going to accept somebody that is different like that. And that's not been true. I have never once in my entire career been hindered because of my sexuality. So it is just one of those things that you follow your instinct, you do what makes you happy, and people follow. People follow people who are bright and happy.
Melissa,
self-destructive.
I'm sorry to interview you. You're going in and out a little bit on your cell phone.
Oh,
so
sorry.
If you that's okay. Just once in a while we lose you. But that's fascinating. And you were so brave back then to really announce it, because now it seems like it's almost trendy to be gay. And it's like seriously, like my kids come home and they're like, so and so, my friend is gay and this and that, and we accept it, and some of my best friends are gay, but to be able to do that way back then and have that kind of moxie to be who you are and come out with it, on air especially. I mean, that is just congratulations. That's really amazing. I'd like to know how long you've been off the air. Probably about 4 or 5 months. Was it in the spring? Are you there?
Yes, I'm still here. Yes. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes, it was in the spring.
Yes, it was in the spring. Do you miss it?
Absolutely. My favorite thing about being in media is the audience. It's, it's not walking into a studio or being in front of a mic or even getting a press pass to a concert. It's the connection with the people. And that's the biggest thing I miss the most, not being on air in Atlanta, is that core audience that has been with me for 20-something years. And you talk about my being brave, but it's these people of Atlanta, not just the gay and lesbian transgender community. It's the entire population of this city that supported me and nurtured me into adulthood. I mean, I grew up with these people, and so I miss them. They're my family.
And I can see they still love and adore you on social media and all over the place. And I got to tell you, if I haven't said it already, I'm just so very honored to have you on air, on my show. It's just really amazing for you to be on here and telling us, being candid with us. And here's where the exclusive part comes in. Now, from what I understand, you really haven't said this before yet. You perhaps weren't allowed to, or I don't know why you weren't talking about it, but why did you quit your job after such a successful career, after almost over 2 decades in the industry?
Well, I think that, when I said earlier that I've never been hindered because of my sexuality, that's true. But I certainly have found that my gender has played a bigger role. And, the main reason that I left, despite being fatigued on a morning show schedule and the demands, and now as a mother, it was mainly because, and everybody's familiar with radio, so I won't be too behind the scenes, but when you listen to a radio station, for the most part, you hear the shows are called Bob and Jane, or Tom and Vicky. There's always usually a duo, and it's usually always a man's name that comes first.
We're talking about Vicky Love, right? Vicky Love.
Oh, well, Vicky's a good friend of mine. So in her case, too, her name
She's
came
awesome.
second. And so, and I just think that you find that is way too regular still to this day. And when I got on the last station I was on, I was local. I had built my career here for 20-something years, and other people were brought in from smaller markets who were unknown to the city, and both cases, their name came first. And I just felt that that was kind of like the message, you know, even though I asked to be placed first, it was not given to me. And I thought, you know, I'm not comfortable with knowing that if my name had been Michael, then I probably would have had my own show. But because my name is Melissa, despite my record, despite how much I've worked, you know, it just wasn't being given to me. And listeners complained about it. Because listeners, without me ever saying anything or complaining about it, the listeners were the ones that stepped up and said, I don't understand. So when my contract came up, I just decided that, or at months preceding my contract, I decided that I choose me. I'm no longer going, if I'm an activist for women and telling women that they need to stop waiting for somebody else to give them what they desire and to take it for themselves, I had to practice what I preached, and I wasn't getting what I wanted, so I left.
What a bold move. You are such a role model, really, for women of all ages, you know, taking that step, first of all, taking the step and, you know, openly pronouncing that you're gay, and then taking that next step and, you know, really proving a point that many women and girls need to learn. And you know, may we all do that more often, really, to prove to the world that we're worth it. And I am sitting here. I know Kristin has so many questions to ask you. I'm gonna let her.
Sure. Because
I just know I can feel it. She's like ready to come in there. Go ahead, Kristin. I'll hand it over to you.
You know, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to your story, Melissa, and I'm just seeing this giant glass ceiling. And I'm like, what is it going to take? Is it going to take a battering ram? Is it going to take an AK? What is it going to take to shatter this glass ceiling? And it happens across all of media. It's in radio. I can definitely say it happens in film. If there's a young woman out there who's on her first radio show, just got her big break, what advice would you give her about this glass ceiling?
Well, I think that she is our future. You know, I think that, you know, when you start out, you have the beauty of ignorance, of you haven't heard all these program directors telling you something that, you know is not true. You know, where, you know, for example, I had a program director years ago, and I worked at most of the stations I've worked at have been geared toward women. A male program director walked me into his office and handed me a sheet of paper, and it basically, like the title of your show, was what women want. So a male program director was telling me, not only as a woman, but as a lesbian, what women want to, and do that in my job, as opposed to, you know, asking me what women want. And so I think that my advice to anybody who's young in radio or television or anything is, you know, don't expect someone to give you what you want, and don't necessarily follow your gut. Like, if something really rubs you the wrong way that somebody said, don't ignore that. There's professional ways to go about it, but it's like you said, I think for a long time women blamed men for not giving women what they needed. And I'm saying, quit asking men to give you what you need. Like, men are never going to think like a woman and know exactly what you need. You need to ask for it and not just be a beta to some alpha guy. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be overly aggressive, but you have to believe in yourself. And even the, you know, most petite woman with the smallest voice can actually make a big impact if she believes in herself. And I think that confidence in that, and know what you're doing and be an expert in what you're doing, and just quit listening to everybody else and worrying about what you're not doing right. Focus on what you are doing right. And I think that will take you much further than following some leader who doesn't care about you.
It's true. And I'm just sitting here because you definitely have a distinct voice in media. I've heard tart, I've heard sassy, bold. And the idea that any guy would feel comfortable mansplaining around you is just beyond me. How did your...
Well, I will say that I have a lot of male colleagues who have a great deal of respect for me.
As well they should, Melissa. As well they should. I just wonder, how did your immediate family take this when you said, I'm leaving my 20-year career behind because of this? Did you have a lot of support from your women friends? Did you have a lot of support from your family? Was it something you had to explain? Did you have to womansplain it to anybody?
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that people also may not realize about me is that I am a single mom, and I call her my baby mama, because we broke up before marriage was legal, so we never got. But she's more than a girlfriend. She's the mother of my child, and we still we have made a great effort to work together as partners because we have this child, and kind of focus on what made us friends in the first place, even though the romance failed. And I have to commend her the most, because here we are raising our son separately, and she's the first one I told that I was leaving, and she gave me incredible support. So the beauty of that is that she is just as much of a women's activist as I am, and I just love the fact that her comment to me was, well, you're like a cat, you'll land on your feet, and don't worry about it, you're going to do great. And that was really, to me, above everybody else. I was just relieved that I don't have to worry about an ex, giving me a hard time for lowering our income level because we have a son. So I've been very blessed to have friends and family that have been nothing but rocks for me. They've never really...
Now I admire you even more. If you have you can get your exes to like you, then that is awesome.
Well, I have had to swallow quite a bit of ego in that time as well. So you have to focus. It's not been easy, I will tell you that, but it's times like this that I appreciate the effort that we've put in together, because I think that we always related on profession. We're both very, professional women, and not just that, we're ambitious women. So I will say that, unfortunately, fortunately rather, I have not had to explain to her too much. But I just think that the listeners probably are the ones that are most confused, because in media they don't really explain to you why things change. If somebody's taken off the air, whether it's on radio or television, they don't really tell you why. They just, all of a sudden, they replace you. So listeners are the ones that I think need the explaining, and nobody's really there to do it. And so I appreciate you giving me the platform to be able to share with some of them, which once I say it, I think they understand, because they, like I said, were confused on why I wasn't given as much as some of my male counterparts were given in the same 20-year experience level.
Mm-hmm. And, speaking of admiring you, which I already do, but I was on the set of Atlanta and Company, and I just so much uttered your name. And the whole team just expressed their love for you, and how much, that they admire you also. And, it's not just your fans and your family and friends, but this whole team from Atlanta and Company on 11 Alive, you're a regular on there now, right? Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing there? So from radio to TV to book author to speaker, it's incredible. No, well, really. And you're a single mom on top of it all.
Yes. Yes, they are very special people over at Atlanta and Company.
They sure are.
It is in television and local television. I think there's a lot of attempts to try to do a connecting local show, and it fails. But Atlanta and Company is by far above and beyond the efforts of anybody else. And I do, when I was on the radio, that's how I gained my relationship with them, as I would come on their show to plug the show I was on. And because of my news background, we developed a game called Headline or Hoax. And so I come in, and whoever other guests they have during that day, we play a game where I give you a headline and you determine whether it's a real headline or not. And it's funny, that game developed long before this whole fake news, phenomenon has happened. So basically, I'm trying to trick you on whether it's a real news story or not. And then they've developed a roundtable. So I come in for roundtable discussions on a variety of topics. And I just appreciate the generosity they give me to be on air, but I love being there. And it's just a great, great group of people.
Yeah, they really are. They're so fun. I'm actually going in for a roundtable myself next week. And I want to find out, where we can find you, how people can contact you, besides, meeting you in person next Thursday at our Spirit of Women panel. And besides, your keynote speech at the conference, which everybody is looking so forward to on October 8th. Where can we find you and how can we support you?
Well, if you're on Twitter, I'm at Melissa Carter. It's 1 L, 2 S's. If you're on Instagram, it's Melissa Carter ATL, because some other Melissa Carter took that account. And
there's another Melissa Carter? I thought there was only one.
I know, there is. Judy, you're right. There is.
Oh, dare she.
And then if you want to go to my blog, which has information on what I've done in the past and things I'm working on, you can go to melissacartersays.com. And because, again, Melissa Carter somewhere took that too. So, but most of the time my listeners have always asked, I wonder what Melissa Carter says about that. And so I took their suggestions and I called the blog site Melissa Carter Says. And so
and you're a fantastic writer. You're very gripping. I mean, when you read what you write, your passion just shines through. So it's fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, and also let me plug the book really quick. I mean, really quick. And the Whale of an Idea, my children's book, is available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. I'd love for you to get that too.
Whale of an Idea inspires kids to live their dreams, right?
That's right. Absolutely. And guys, thank you so much. I've loved talking to you. It's never long enough. Never long enough.
I know. Seriously. But we do have to get to Bill. So I will see you next week. And for everyone else, go on to melissacartersays.com and follow her. And I just am so thrilled to have her on the show. Kristin.
Yes, we've got Bill Oberst coming on.
Are you ready?
I am. He's won an Emmy for being creepy, and he's still at it. He's known for appearances on Criminal Minds, Scream Queens, and in over 100 indie horror films. Bill is in New York City right now preparing for the off-Broadway debut of his solo show, Ray Bradbury's Pillar of Fire. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lon Chaney Award winner, Ray Bradbury nut and Jesus freak, Bill Oberst Jr. Welcome to the show, Bill.
I am delighted to be here. Judy, I'm in your stomping grounds, right? New York City?
That's right.
Yeah, I'm in Hell's Kitchen.
I cannot wait to see your show on Sunday.
Thank you so much. We just sold out. I just went down to the theater today.
Oh, right. I'm glad I grabbed my ticket.
You know what's really funny is that L.A. thinks that New York awards are better than theirs, and New York thinks that L.A. awards are better. That we all have this insecurity. Because I was talking with the guys there, and he's like, "Oh yeah, people have won Tony would trade 2 Tonys for an Emmy," and I was like, "It's the same way out in L.A. People are like, oh yeah, sure, I won this, but what I really want is." It's really funny because both cities are very insular. They only care about what happens in that town, but they both look at each other kind of with sideways jealousy. It's very interesting.
I know. I think I'm the only one I've ever met that actually wants to move from New York to California. I mean, people look at me when I'm in New York when I say that, like, why would you want to do something like that? I wonder.
I've had undue influence on Judy because every single time we talk just before the show, I just go on and on about how wonderful the weather here is.
I hate you guys.
I think that's what it is. But
it is beautiful, but you forget how many years have gone by. Isn't that true, Kristin?
Yes, there's a time warp here, and we all get sucked into it. And speaking,
you don't realize somebody will say oh my God, I haven't seen you, and they'll say 2014. What?
Right?
That many years.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Well, every day feels the same. It's always like a pizza oven with a fan on, and so you lose track of time.
Well, I'm sure you lose track of time because since 2007, Bill, you've managed to amass 164 acting credits, and the math when you do it makes that close to 17 films a year. What roles are you most proud of, and how do you keep that schedule up to win awards constantly? You have 19 wins and 7 nominations for all these films. How do you do that?
Well, baby needs shoes. I mean, I'm a working actor. It's not a hobby for me, and LA is full of working actors. We're just working Joes. If you were a plumber, nobody would ask you about all the sinks you made. But when you're an actor, it's different. I guess when you're a model, it's the same thing. I'm sure that when you work for Ford, there had to be times when people are like, oh, how do you do all this? And you're like, I don't know, it's just what I do.
Yeah, and that's one thing that actually impressed me about you when we were preparing for the show and promoting. Thank you for the promotion, by the way, that you were so prepared in your research of Kristin and I. And of course, Kristin, I think you guys have been in movies together, right? A few movies?
3.
Yeah,
3.
And she's always really nice to be on the red carpet.
But Kristin, I hope so. Kristin's nice to everybody. Kristin, he picked out things of my background, like, that he would tag in posts and things like that. So not only is he doing 17 movies a year, but you're so well prepared. I can imagine you're like that in your career, no?
Yeah, well, that's the only way to work. I don't know what it's like in New York, but I'll find out what it's like in New York this weekend. But in LA, the main rule is don't be a bitch. If you're not a bitch, you can work with a modicum of talent if you're just mindful of the fact that you're not the only person in the world, that other people also have their promotional needs, because it's a business. And so you always research who you're going to work with the night before you go to set, go through the call sheet, look up people on IMDb. Is there something that they've done that you're familiar with that you can legitimately say, hey, Kristin, I really loved you in, Bob Gets a Car. Sometimes the DP, you want the cinematographer to take care of you on set. So you don't want to kiss his ass, but what you can do is look at his reel. All cinematographers have reel. Look at the reel. The next day when you meet, hey, you're Judy. You're the cinematographer, right? Yes, I am, Judy. I really love your reel, and I particularly like the shots you got of the sunset. How did you do that? They will be your best friend.
I'm going to fight with you on that. It's not just being nice.
They'll take care of you in the shot.
It's about talent, and the nice part comes along with it, but it's really about talent, and Kristin knows that, and everybody in the business knows that you are working that much because you are sensationally talented, right, Kristin?
And I'm not a bitch.
That's right. Bill's not a bitch, and he's super talented. And you know what?
I'll do anything. You know what? It's like, can you, Bill? Can you be dressed as Abraham Lincoln and jump about 10 feet off the top of this parapet in Savannah, Georgia? We don't have a safety pad, but we got to get this shot because the sun's going down. Yes, I can, and I have the shin splints to prove it.
Oh, my goodness. Bill, you've been voted the sexiest man in horror, but you didn't start your career off.
By who?
Well, I was told.
I don't believe it.
I was told this by your manager, Bill, that there was a poll.
Well, yeah.
And you were voted the sexiest man in horror, but you actually didn't start off in horror films. You actually got your start on stage. How did you get from being a stage actor to suddenly being this icon of dripping sexiness in these wonderful horror films?
I don't want anybody look at my Criminal Minds reel, which is on IMDb, and then tell me if that's sexy. I love it. Although some people might find a deformed serial killer sexy. He just needs love like everybody else,
Well, I would mention your serial killer is actually very special because isn't it true that one serial killer, the Mountain Man, I believe he's called, actually did not get caught, which is very atypical for criminals.
He's one of a handful that are still at large. I keep hoping they'll bring him back and kill him properly. But to answer your question, by accident is the route from stage. I made my living on the stage on the East Coast for 14 happy years. I made a good living, and I was wonderful. It was very fun. I loved doing it. I never thought of doing film and TV. And then there was this casting online that somebody showed me, and it was for General Sherman from the Civil War, William Tecumseh Sherman, the great demon of the South that I always heard growing up in South Carolina. It was for a documentary called Sherman's March on the History Channel. And on a lark, never having appeared in front of the camera, I sent in a video, got called to come in and audition, and they hired me. And I was like, oh my God, I don't even know, where do I look? Do I look in the camera or what? And so I just had to learn everything from scratch, and I learned by asking a lot of questions. And then I thought, well, great, I'll be this historical character actor because I really love that. But then I found out I was scary. And once I found out I was scary, I started to work because once you know your brand, you are the solution to the casting director's problem. Don't be versatile because they don't have time for that. They just need to know what slot does this actor fit in. And once I found my slot, it was okay.
So fast forward a few years, and all of a sudden you're getting a daytime Emmy for Take This Lollipop. How did you get involved in that, and what is Take This Lollipop?
It's
Typical
creepy. That's what it
Hollywood
is.
Story. Typical Hollywood story. You go to an audition with a bunch of other guys. You end up getting picked, and you have no idea what the project's going to do. And that one ended up winning an Emmy. It was really good for all of us involved. It was a Facebook application. If people want to try it, it's still online after over 100 million views. It's Take
100 million. I said a million.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Wow.
No, it's worldwide. Yeah, 100 million. That was a long time ago when it was 100 million. It was a big sensation. It takes your Facebook profile, and this creepy guy tries to hack into it, and that creepy guy is me. Now,
well, if it was a long time ago, it's actually even more. It would be much more today.
Yeah, I'm sure. I was like 12. The
That's
interesting
amazing.
thing, Judy and Kristin, was that when we filmed it, the concept was a secret because it was a big reveal. So all I knew was that I was looking at a old-fashioned monitor with blue on it for a blue screen. And I had no idea what I was supposed to be looking at. But the director, who's absolutely brilliant, if you've ever used an app at Christmas time called Elf Yourself, where you turn you and your family into elves,
Yes.
Yeah, I love that one.
that app was created by Jason Zada, who's a brilliant, brilliant guy. And he also created Take This Lollipop. But he was there on set. And though I didn't know what I was doing, he just kept leaning down and saying, go deeper, go darker, go deeper, go darker. So I just went to the deepest, darkest depths I could think of, pawing that screen. And then when the actual app came out, I was like, oh, my God, that's what I was looking at. So it's very, very typical Hollywood in all ways.
Well, let's talk about going deeper and darker, because you've played rapists, you've played cannibals. You and I were on a set where you were a killer clown.
A necrophiliac killer clown, thank you.
That's right, a necrophiliac killer clown. You know, you would think
Yes.
that you would get a sketchy reputation on the street playing all of those, and of course that's now on brand for you. But you know, every time
You do.
how you have a reputation for being the most affable, nicest guy around. Is that part of your faith? Is it your faith that grounds you when you're kind of excavating the heart of darkness? Or is it something your parents taught you? How do you stay nice after playing all of these not nice, unsavory, heinous, terrible people?
Well, I mean, it's a job, you know. I go to work and I do my job, and I know how to, I guess I know how to go to the most selfish. I know how to be the worst person I could possibly be for a little while on screen, but then I don't want to be that person anymore. I don't like to live in it. Unlike some actors who work in the genre who I've talked to who really do kind of like, you know, getting down in and staying in it. But I don't. I like to come out of it. Like right after I lick the blood off the girl's face, I'm always like, oh my God, are you okay? Did I get hair in your face? Are you all right?
Is it ever a conflict for you? Because I know you're very religious.
Well, I don't know if I'm religious. I follow Jesus because I fell in love with him when I was a kid. And when I heard, you know, if somebody asks you to go for a mile, go 2. And the greatest commandment of all is to love one another. That's it. Love. That's it. That's all of it. If you and a guy who knelt down and washed fishermen's feet, and then one of the guys who he washed said, "Oh God, you know, if you could show us God, that would be great." And he's like, "You just saw him. That's it." And this idea that, you know, this great, we've imagined God in so many ways through history as a thunderbolt hurler and all different ways. And this guy is saying, if you want to see God, there he is. He's on his knees washing fishermen's feet. That blew my mind when I was a kid, and I fell in love with Jesus and have been in love with him ever since. But
so there's never a conflict for you playing rapists and killers and stalkers and all that type of thing?
No,
okay. You categorize it.
That's the human condition. That is the human condition. I don't believe that people are naturally good. I don't believe we're full of light at all. You know, I think that's bullshit. Oh, you know, we're full of light and we have light. No, we're not. We're selfish. From the time we're children, from the time we come out of the womb, we want only what is good for us and nobody else. And we have to fight against that natural instinct. That's at its best without all of the bullshit that people put on top of it and all of the hypocrisy. That's what Christianity is supposed to be. And that's what I aim to do. So I have no problem playing the worst of humanity, because to me it says, this is what we are. Don't deceive yourself and think that we're full of light and love.
Now, you've played Jesus on stage. You're also in the process, or have done Genesis, the first book of the Bible. Is that true as well?
Yeah, as a stage piece, I did Genesis. Not the whole thing, because people couldn't sit through it, but I cut it down to like an hour.
Well, I'm interested. You now are doing Ray Bradbury's Pillar of Fire in New York City. Why Ray Bradbury, and why now?
I love the flow of languages. This is why I love Scripture. I love Shakespeare. I love the feel of Bradbury on the tongue and on the mind, because Bradbury is probably the most expressive American writer that we ever produced. Certainly of the 20th century. Bradbury knows how to construct a sentence in a way that will stay with you. He understands metaphor. Right now what I'm saying to you is a word salad. If Bradbury said it, it would be just like one little piece of lettuce, and that's all you'd need. You'd remember that piece of lettuce forever. Why now? I want to continue to interpret the works of Ray Bradbury, because what Bradbury said is, we are going to make it. We're going to go into space. We're going to spread our seed throughout space. That's going to be our future. We have to look up, up, up. And the war is not between nation states. The war is all of humankind against the dangers of space. That is a message that I think we need right now, because we're very petty and we're very small right now. We're very small-minded. Anything that helps bring humanity together to find what we all have in common, that is what we need, I think. Bradbury said we are first citizens of the planet, and everything else comes after that, and I believe that. So I'm passionate about Bradbury.
How did this passion begin? Was it something in school, or was it, or did you discover Bradbury later?
I was a fat, unpopular kid, like all actors. And, well, they're not all fat, but they're all unpopular. If they're any good, I never met a good actor who wasn't unpopular as a kid. I was a weird misfit kid, and I spent a lot of time alone, and I was walking in the woods one day, and I found this book. And it was an old Ray Bradbury paperback that somebody had dropped there. And the first story that I read was Pillar of Fire. And it blew my mind, and that's the story that I'm going to do off-Broadway for its debut, off-Broadway debut. I've already done it in L.A., but I'm going to do that this weekend. And it's very, very special to reconnect with something that moved you as a child. He became my friend. I didn't have many friends growing up, but Bradbury was my friend because he created worlds where misfits could thrive. And I had no idea that such worlds existed, so I love him.
It's so inspiring to hear that. And yes, many of the greatest actors are awkward children and go through their awkwardness and process out their awkwardness and weird and wonderful ways for everyone, hopefully, to see.
Maybe I would be a good actor then.
Judy, you would be an excellent actor.
Because
and you know what?
I was a misfit kid too.
I figured you were, because you are good. And you know what, guys? Children who are adored and idolized and popular all of their lives, those children make lousy interpreters of the human condition when they grow up. I've seen it time and time again. Those are the people who want to be celebrities. They want to be in this business because they want to be famous, just like they were when they were a kid. And they always end up falling on their ass sooner or later because they don't understand the human condition. But a misfit understands the human condition, because that's what we are. We're misfits. All of us, every one of us. We're wandering aliens in the world.
It's interesting, and it's so interesting to see you bring that to life. I've seen Pillar of Fire twice in Los Angeles. Every single time it was fresh, and there was something different. And you worked very closely also with Ezra Buzzington to bring that to the stage for Fringe Festival, and then I saw it at the Pasadena Library. What's the most difficult thing about doing a one-man show like this and touring it the way you are doing?
The most difficult thing in doing a one-man show is not knowing when you're bad. And Ezra Buzzington is a good friend and a big movie actor in his own right. And Ezra directed this piece for me. And he was nice enough to tell me when I sucked. That's what a solo actor needs. That's the hardest thing, because you're only on stage by yourself, so you might do things that feel good for you, but they don't feel good for the audience. It's having the discipline. to put yourself in the audience's shoes, and a director really helps you. That and making sure your fly is zipped.
That's an important one. That is an important one. Well, you've had...
Oh, dear. Has that happened?
Oh, yes, as John F. Kennedy.
Oh. Has that happened to you, I meant?
Yes, as John F. Kennedy. I toured as Kennedy up in the Northeast in the 90s in a one-man show called JFK. And once I came out in front of a big group. I mean, a big group. Must have been 1,500 kids. And, I'm doing the, I suppose that this nation send a man to the moon and return him safely by 1960. It is this ocean that we must sail. And the kids are just laughing. I'm like, what are you guys laughing at? This is really good stuff. And then finally, some jackass in the first row shouted out loud enough to be heard over my lavalier mic, "Dude, your fly's open." So, yeah.
Wow, you must have experienced so many just unbelievable things.
Well,
we're in the presence of a genius here, Kristin.
I know it. I know it. See, I was prepared. I knew it. I
knew it from his Twitter posts when he said something about his dog and his family like him, and that's it, or something like that.
You never believe your own PR, ladies. You know that.
It's true. It's true. The photographs say blonde, but I know that I have brown roots underneath. But Bill, it's interesting. You've gotten into some historical figures. You've played Louis Grizzard. You've played RFK. Is there a particular challenge in playing these historical figures? Do you have to work with the family to really get these portrayals the way you nail them so wonderfully? How do you even approach that?
Yes, and I'm developing now for approval by Ray Bradbury's family a solo portrayal of him.
Wow.
And the answer is yes. It's a huge responsibility, particularly when they're living relatives. The hardest part about doing a show like that is finding the essence of a person. I'm from the South, and my grandmother used to take ham bones and turkey bones or whatever bones were left and boil them down into a soup. And it took a long time to get the stock, to boil it down. And that's what I think of when you're a person who leaves the earth. You got to boil that person down to their essence. What was their essence? What was the one thing about them that was unique from any other person? And usually it's not the things we think of. It's not their achievements. And I think of this often, that when we leave the earth, your achievements really aren't going to matter. What will matter is your essence. What kind of person were you? Were you a loving person? Were you a harsh person? Those are the things that people will remember, those little thumbnail sketches. So that's what it is to get to in when you're playing a historical figure. That's the hardest thing.
It is, it's true, and you really have to kind of, as an actor, you have to search for the essence of yourself, I think, and what's important and what else is window dressing, basically.
That's exactly right. And you have to be brutally honest with yourself, because most of what you believe about yourself is bullshit. Good and bad. We all go to the extreme. We either say, well, I'm the most wonderful person in the world, or boy, I'm just the worst thing. And no, you're not. You're not either one. You're average, and you're not important, and you're not exceptional, and you're not special. All of us fall in the middle range, I believe. And if you can accept that, then you can start building on the qualities that you think might be a little something, but nobody is. Oh, they're a superstar, they're wonderful, or oh, they're the worst person who ever lived. No, that's not true. I don't believe it's true. I think we all fall in the middle range. We over and underestimate ourselves. This is why I'm no good on red carpets.
Well, Bill, I know a lot of people who would actually say the opposite. You've always been wonderful. I've been on many red carpets with you, and you've always given it a great interview.
But you're a model.
No, I'm not a model. But I'll tell you what, I know that there are legions of people after listening to this interview that want to follow you and also want to know how they can catch your show in New York City. So tell us where to follow you and find you online, and also how to get tickets for Pillar of Fire.
You can get tickets for Pillar of Fire by going to unitedsolo.org. unitedsolo.org. That's the theater festival that's hosting the show. And there's a link there for the festival and for tickets. It's also on my social media, which is Bill Oberst, and my Twitter is Bill Oberst also. Yeah.
Well, Bill,
people sometimes ask, like, what are you up to? And so I encourage people to drop by the IMBD page, not so they can say, oh, he did a lot of things. But there might be a project there that you're interested in or something, and drop me a line, because I love to interact with people. I'm only socially awkward in person. On the phone, and when I have time to write, I'm okay. It's just in person.
I'll be the judge of that on Sunday.
That's right, Judy.
So I'll be fine.
That's
I'm
right.
going to wait for you at the back door.
Uh-oh.
Oh, thank you.
Well, Bill, it was such an honor and privilege to have you on. It was an honor and privilege to
Totally.
have Melissa on as well. Thank you so much. I'm sure we'll have you back again. And everyone, thanks so much. Next week, we're going to be having our transformational mindset coach, David Baer, also a keynote for our Spirit of Women conference on. He's going to reveal the mind-boggling truths about your brain and how you can use it to maximize your potential, and other fascinating topics. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a wonderful night.
You're listening to What Women Want with Judy Goss, only on LA Talk Radio.